Laziness doesn't exist. That's right, this isn't clickbait. I genuinely believe that laziness is a completely false concept that needs to be eradicated. And by the end of this video, I think you're probably going to agree with me. Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals. My name is Megan, and welcome back to Healing Unscripted, the YouTube channel for accessible and relatable mental health content. Today, we're going to destroy the entire idea of laziness. Never again will you call yourself lazy to motivate yourself through shame. From now on, we motivate ourselves with compassion and love only, because I promise you, laziness doesn't exist. The number one reason laziness does not exist is because most of the time it's actually something called executive dysfunction. Executive dysfunction is when you have trouble sorting, prioritizing, starting, and/or finishing tasks. Basically, it's when you have trouble with the functions in charge of making executive decisions. Imagine you have a little executive, a little CEO inside your brain who is controlling what you do and when you do it. If that executive isn't very good at their job, you're going to struggle with some of these basic tasks. It's especially common in people who are neurodivergent, like people with ADHD, autism, or high sensitivity. However, you don't need to be neurodivergent to experience executive dysfunction. It can also be a sign of depression, burnout, or just really high levels of stress. So what does executive dysfunction feel like? A lot of people describe it as feeling really stuck, feeling like you want to do the thing. You really want to do the thing. It would be easy to do the thing, and you're not doing it. You're just not doing it. Over and over, you're not doing it, and you can't figure out why. You want to do it, and you just can't. Sound familiar? This is not laziness. This is the polar opposite of laziness. You want to do the thing. You are trying to do the thing. You just are struggling because the little CEO in your brain is not performing their duties efficiently. Okay, so let's say you relate to this really strongly. What are you supposed to do about it? I actually have 3 tips to help you deal with executive dysfunction. Number 1, try visually sorting your tasks that you need to accomplish. This might look like writing out your to-do list, or even writing down everything that you have to do on individual post-it notes and then spreading them out in front of you so you can see them. Number 2, if you're struggling to start a specific task, try doing something adjacent to that task. So for instance, if you're having a really hard time tackling the sink full of dishes and all you can do is scroll through TikTok, try scrolling through TikTok in the kitchen. That at least puts you in the same room and increases your chances of actually getting the dishes done. And finally, number 3, give yourself permission to not get the thing done. Sometimes that takes enough pressure off that you actually can get it done. And even if you can't, it really is okay. Remember, the CEO in your brain is not working correctly, and that is not the same as laziness. Okay, so another common reason that people don't do things even when they know they quote unquote should be is because of mental resistance. Mental resistance is when we have trouble doing something new specifically because it's new and therefore feels like a threat. This might sound crazy, but it really is true. Our brains perceive pretty much all new things as threats. The human brain loves pattern and repetition because if you do something over and over and over and you don't die, then there's a pretty good chance that that thing is pretty safe. Anytime you do something new, you don't have that repetition and that pattern to prove that it's safe, and so your brain is going to question you and try to get you to stop. And yes, this even applies when you're trying to do something good for you, like eating healthier or coming up with a solid morning routine. But just like with executive dysfunction, there are a couple ways around it. Number 1, pair the new task with an old task that already feels safe. So let's say you want to start drawing more, but for some reason, because of mental resistance, you just haven't been able to do it. You keep putting it off, you keep avoiding it, you keep forgetting. Try pairing it with a habit that's already in place. Maybe you draw every morning when you have that first cup of coffee. Number 2, break the new task down into lots of little tasks, and instead of trying to do it all at once, do little bits of it throughout the day. This makes new things way less intimidating. And number 3, ask yourself why you need to do this new thing. Knowing your why can be a huge motivator for actually getting the thing done. Finally, sometimes we don't do things because we're resting, and that is 100% allowed. Capitalism would have you believe that you are defined by your productivity, but that is not the case. This belief leads to overworking and burnout, which I mentioned before can actually make executive dysfunction worse. So by calling self-care and rest laziness in order to be more productive, you're actually increasing your likelihood of experiencing executive dysfunction, which many people also term laziness. Your worth isn't defined by your productivity. Your worth is defined by one thing and one thing only, and that's your existence. You're worthy because you're here. You're worthy of love, you're worthy of happiness, and yes, you're worthy of rest. Sometimes we don't do things we should be doing. That's okay. That's not laziness. That's humanity. And here are 3 ways to take time for self-care without calling yourself lazy. Number 1, set aside worry time to worry about the fact that you're being lazy by resting if you need to. If you can't get those worries to go away, that's okay, but don't let it invade on your resting time because that's a huge energy leak. It will sap all of the relaxation out of you if you spend the whole time worrying. Instead, take time to rest, take time to relax, and then later on in your day, worry about whether or not it was laziness. Hint, it wasn't. Number 2, practice believing that it's okay to rest without being lazy by intentionally not doing something that you planned on doing, and then pay attention to how the world doesn't collapse around you. And number 3, go follow the Nap Ministry on Instagram. Seriously, it's going to change your life. Links in the description. There are many reasons that we don't do stuff sometimes, and none of them have anything to do with laziness. Laziness is a lie that capitalism tells us to keep us producing at the expense of our well-being, but you don't have to believe that lie anymore. It's okay to experience executive dysfunction, mental resistance, and to practice self-care. Those things are not laziness. They're human. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and ding the bell so you don't miss any future videos.